Sports Minutes with Raushan.
Money FM 89.3. It's time for Sports Minutes with me, Raushan. And for today's episode, you might want some tissue handy as we're going to look back on the legacy of one of Asia's finest footballers. He arrived as a 23-year-old, raw, rough and fueled by ambition. A decade later, he leaves as a loyal servant, a leader of the pack and a legend of the club.
It was probably one of the hardest decisions I ever made, so please don't be disappointed. I will be disappointed not seeing you on the pitch. I'll be always in your history book. And Spurs will be always in my heart. Spurs will be always in my family. As a kid, you welcome me, and as I grow up, I'm leaving you. But yeah, this is the right time to say goodbye. Yeah, I love you all. Thank you for amazing support for the 10 years.
That was Son Heung-Min speaking after his departure from Tottenham, but in joining LAFC for a record fee. What will the South Korean skipper bring to the MLS? And what legacy does he leave behind in the Premier League? So to help us unpack all of this on Sports Minutes, I'm joined by Steve Price, a Seoul-based journalist who's been following Son's career for years. Steve, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, and thanks for having me on.
I can imagine this might be a particularly busy time for you, Steve. But first, for context, tell us how long you've been covering Son's career.
Yeah, you're right. And it's the start of the football season as well now, so it's extremely busy. Yeah, like professionally, I've been following it since I was working doing the in-match reporting for the Korean national team back in 2018 World Cup qualifying. So that's actually roughly the same time as Son actually started playing for Tottenham Hotspur. So it's kind of a good time period. But of course, I was following that before that when he was at Hamburg and at Leverkusen, and he was seen as like the next big thing already at that point in Korean football. Even at Hamburg, people were saying it. Yeah, he's been the top star and even seen as the next big thing for a long time, not just his time at Spurs.
Absolutely, he is a top star, not just in Korea, but the world over. Let's talk about Son Heung-min now. Before I talk about his move to LA, I want to talk Spurs. And you may not have been at the presser that Son made the announcement, but you certainly were at the game when Spurs played Newcastle in Seoul. And then Son came off, I think it was the 60-odd minute, to this standing ovation from his home support. What was that moment like?
Yeah, I was kind of figuring out what time are they going to bring him off, because often in that situation, they bring a player off so he can get that standing ovation. He didn't just get a standing ovation. He got a guard of honour from all the Newcastle players. So they made a line, got him to go through. He hugs pretty much every player on the pitch, all the staff as well. It's kind of a bit strange. Yeah, it's kind of felt a bit like a retirement game, which is a bit odd because he's not retiring. Of course, he's going to the MLS and, in my opinion, got plenty more years left in him. So it was a bit of a strange kind of atmosphere in that respect. Yeah, he was almost in tears when he was on the bench with all the emotion kind of running through him later on in that game as well. So it was, a very emotional game for Son and for a lot of the supporters there.
I take your point, Steve. It must have seemed like he's retiring almost when in fact he's got plenty left. And he's got a World Cup year looking ahead as well. But I want to talk about Spurs and his decision to leave. In your opinion, do you think there was a sort of perfect ending because he just led the team to the Europa League title as well and leaving on a high almost?
I mean, he didn't have the best of seasons last season, but I think there's a lot of mitigating factors in that case. He was injured a lot. He's generally not been that injured through his career, so that affected him. And he was kind of played in a slightly different way under Postecoglou as how he was played under previous managers, which kind of really hit his kind of stats. He wasn't being played in the positions where he can get into creating goal-scoring opportunities as much. If anybody reads The Athletic, there's a great article all about that on there that somebody wrote. So I would say that's a good one to see that. So yeah, I think he probably could have played a few more seasons in the Premier League. So he's going out on a high because he's the captain of Tottenham Hotspur, and it's their first trophy in 17 years, their first European trophy since 1984. And he's lifting that as the main man, as the captain of the team, which is huge. If you think back to other guys like Park Ji-sung or something like that, you can't really think of many examples of Korean players lifting major trophies as a captain or something like that. So he's really, if you're going to choose when to go out, that's the highest of the highs that you can go out on, I think. But at the same time, I feel like he could have kept playing in the Premier League or in the Bundesliga for several more seasons.
I think Spurs fans listening in might feel weird if Son were to play for any other Premier League team, but he's decided to move to LA. Before we talk about LA, let's talk about brand Son, because I know the fandom this man brings along. You've witnessed it firsthand. Perhaps tell us about the greatness in terms of how much fans love Son Heung-Min.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Back when Mourinho was the manager of Spurs, they did a documentary, one of the All or Nothing shows, and I think that was the first time that a lot of fans outside of Korea got to see Son and get to see his personality. So like that show really, he was in it a lot. He featured a lot in it, and from then on, people outside of Korea were really kind of seeing him as this kind of football personality and seeing like the man behind the player as well. Of course, in Korea, he's massive. In his hometown in Chuncheon, there's a massive mural of him on the side of one of the buildings. His face is on all of like the banks, and the when I went to get my coffee this morning, you go into like the little kiosk to like press it, and it'll say there, it'll be like, "Hi, I'm Sonny. Have a mega day," like that. Like he's everywhere in Korea. So I think he still will be when he moves to LA as well. You can't get away from him.
Yeah, he's certainly bringing brand Son to LA as well. Before we talk about the marketing perspective, I want to talk football. This seems like a match made in heaven because he arrives as a MLS record transfer. He's obviously still got something to give on the pitch. And in a World Cup year, he needs fitness, he needs minutes. So it's going to work for all parties, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, I feel like he could still have done a job in Europe. I think there are several Bundesliga teams that were after him. So I was actually quite surprised that he chose Los Angeles in the end. Yeah, to kind of give you a level of how big a star. It's basically, you've got David Beckham when he went there, Messi when he went there. Like Sonny's probably the next one underneath those two in terms of players moving to the States. I mean, because he's still at a point where he's extremely marketable. He's still an extremely talented player. His actual goals per minute in the Premier League and assists per minute last season weren't that far off how high they have been normally. Yeah, I think he's going to have a cracking time there. To give you kind of some context, the joint top scorer in the MLS at the moment was kind of like the backup striker for Nottingham Forest when they were in the Championship. So that's the second tier of English football. So you think Sonny coming in still very close to his peak, coming in for that record transfer, he's going to be having a major impact on games. He only played 30 minutes in his debut and he already earned a penalty in that game, like through his speed alone. So, yeah, I think he's going to definitely impress when he's over there.
You've already drawn comparisons to David Beckham as well as Lionel Messi. And then we talk about brand Son coming to LA, right? Beyond the pitch in a World Cup year, how important is it for a player like Son to come along for American football as a whole?
I think that's what MLS has been wanting. Like, they don't want to be seen as a retirement league. And even though they have had players who have been in that kind of space, they've also, they want to bring in players who are still at least close to their prime. And this is an example of that. A player who can still perform to a very high level. He's gonna want to perform. He's a player who will play every minute of every game if he's allowed to. He's not going to say, I don't want to play. I've seen that with the Korea national team when there's been games when he probably didn't need to play and he still wanted to play in them. So he's putting it all out there. His place in the national team is secure, obviously. Like normally when people think about the World Cup year, they're thinking like they're the players on the edge of the team who need to make a move to make sure they get minutes. That's not really the case. Even if Son had have gone, even if he had stayed at Tottenham and been on the bench for a lot of the season, he still would have been in the national team, obviously. So it's kind of an interesting move. So I'm not actually quite sure about how much that narrative really is true in terms of going there in a World Cup year. I'm thinking that he's actually maybe looking further ahead than that and thinking about what he's going to be doing in 5 years' time when his career ends and using this as a chance to build his brand in Los Angeles and become a huge sports star there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something David Beckham did to a T, and now he's the owner of MLS franchise as well. So you never know, right? That could possibly happen.
Exactly. So I was telling you about his hometown in Korea. It has this mural of him. There's more Koreans living in Los Angeles than living in his hometown. So he's got this chance to be that superstar.
Absolutely. That's something I read on The Athletic as well. Singh, I want to ask you this. When we talk about Spurs and we talk about the all-time greats, where does Son rank amongst all of them?
Very, very high, especially among recent ones, because he's been there for so long as well. There's been a lot of players like Gareth Bale, for example, who are really good, but then they moved somewhere else, or Luka Modric, and they had their peak years at a bigger club than Spurs, somewhere like Real Madrid, for example. Whereas, Son Heung-Min, he's had it all that time there. I mean, even when you think of Harry Kane, there's some Spurs fans who are saying Harry Kane left Tottenham to win a trophy for himself, but Son stayed at Tottenham to win a trophy for us. So just by staying there, that also kind of helps his legend kind of status. But at the same time, he's Spurs' 5th highest goal scorer ever. Wow. And he's not even an out-and-out striker most of the time. Yeah, he's got 173 goals for them. So that's incredible. He's part of the most prolific partnership, him and Kane, in Premier League history. They together combined for 47 goals. And together, those two as a pair is going to be remembered as one of the best partnerships in football history. Yeah, he's done all sorts of other things as well. He won the Puskás Award for the best goal in the world in that year. Again, when he scored against Burnley, he dribbled around all those players. He won the Golden Boot. There's not many Spurs players. Harry Kane won it, but there's not many other Spurs players who've won that in the Premier League. He's going to go down very highly, and especially because Spurs haven't had that much success. As I said, it was the 80s when they last won a European trophy, and the most recent one since then was the League Cup, which is kind of a lesser trophy. So when you put that in, he's going to probably go down as one of their best players in the last 50 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers suggest he deserves that rank high up. My final question to you, because you're an Asia-based journalist as well, where does then Son rank amongst Asian greats? You already mentioned Park Ji-sung earlier, who had his fair share of successes at Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, this is something which I think we're going to touch on about also how he's changed the perception of Asian players as well. There's a great quote by Bill Shankly. He's got many great quotes. He says, a football team's like a piano. You need 8 men to carry it and 3 who can play the damn thing. I think that fits in. Park Ji-sung was one of the guys who could carry it. He's never the team's star player or anything like that. Son's one of the players. He's one of the stars. He's one of the piano maestros. And I think like any young Asian players who are looking for a role model, when you're a kid and you want to play football, you don't want to be the piano carrier, do you? You want to be the guy who's in the headlines, scoring all the goals, winning the games. Son's gone and done that. And so he's going to be a massive role model for any young Asian footballers for the next 20, 30 years probably. And when you look at it that way, and when you look at all of the kind of personal individual stats that he's got, you've got to say he's the best probably of all time.
I love the context and I love the quote you use, because I don't think a lot of kids will grow up saying I want to be the next Park Ji-sung, but plenty will say I want to be the next Son Heung-Min. Steve Price, it's been excellent canvassing your opinions. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
So Steve there giving us the Korean perspective on all things Son Heung-Min. What about the Spurs fan perspective? Well, I caught up with 2 Spurs fans.
My name is Nitin Nambia and I've been a Tottenham fan for over 30 years now, and in those 30 years, I don't think I've loved a player as much as I've loved Sonny. My greatest memories, both good and bad, are associated with him. It's been an incredible 10 years. We reached the Champions League final, something I didn't think was possible in my lifetime. We may have lost that one, and while many players grew tired of being here, you stayed, even when Harry Kane left. You then did the unthinkable when you lifted that Europa League title in Bilbao, a moment to take you to the history books of the club and into the hearts of its fans forever. Aside from the Tottenham Hotspur side of things, what you've done for Asian football is absolutely legendary. You've continued to show the next generation that it is possible to be from this region and to go on to be a global superstar. It's tough seeing you leave now, but you leave a European trophy-winning captain, the first Asian to lift a European trophy as captain, and an absolute legend in North London. Have a beautiful time in LA, Sonny. We will love you forever at Tottenham.
I'm James Walton. I've been a Spurs fan for 40 years. And I've seen some great players at the Lane, and especially wingers, Waddle, Ginola, Lennon, so many great players over the years. But Sonny really stands a class apart because firstly, he did it for so long, a decade of excellence at the club. And secondly, when others, Eriksen, Kane, moved on in an effort to seek glory, he stayed because he was committed to win that trophy with the club. And I think that's what makes him stand out from the others. For me, personal highlight alongside the Puskás goal, many goals against Arsenal, the classic goal against Chelsea, but for me, the highlight is the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final in 2019 against Manchester City. 2 goals in that famous green shirt to help us through on away goals for a tie we never had a chance to win. So, on behalf of Spurs fans, thank you for everything, Sonny.
Sports Minutes on Money FM 89.3.